Huge queues lined up at polling stations across Russia and beyond on March 17th, the last day of the so-called presidential election. People came by noon to take part in the large-scale action, Noon Against Putin. There are more young people in the queues than ever before.
I would like to wait for change. I don't know if it will happen or not, but I believe that my voice can make a difference.
At noon, the queue stretched for dozens of meters at each polling station opened in educational institutions and administrative buildings. People are ready to wait for several hours to take part in the action and express their civil position.
I would like to record these elections for myself somehow, to tick a box for myself, so if I were to tell someone later, I can say that I didn't sit at home for nothing, but came and tried to do something.
The action Noon Against Putin was initiated by Maxim Reznik, a deputy from St. Petersburg who was forced to leave Russia. Its goal is simply to come to the elections and vote against it in any possible way, vote for one of the alternative candidates or spoil the ballot paper, and thus show that there is another anti-Putin Russia.
This is, in fact, our only way to show that there is another Russia, that there is a Russia that is against Putin, and this is a safe way. Show it by simply physically gathering at the polling stations at the same time.
Many Russians sent photos of the ballot papers to special bots to count the votes. According to the publication We Can Explain, its journalists analyzed the published ballots and found that almost half of voters cast their vote for an alternative candidate, and the other half had simply spoiled the ballot papers. In them, they left appeals to Putin, anti-war slogans, and the names of opposition politicians.
I am almost 30 years old, and I have realized that I have never voted yet, and I see where it leads. I will vote against Putin, and I consider it my duty, despite the fact that the result is probably obvious, but I want to do my part and vote against him.
This is how Russians went to the polling stations not only throughout the Russian Federation, but also in other countries around the world. This is a queue of voters in Riga, this one is in London, and this is in Tokyo. The images of large queues outside Russian embassies are the same everywhere. In social networks, people reported that they spent 2 to 3 hours waiting, and in the afternoon there were even more people willing to vote everywhere.
There were 100 people at 11:45 a.m. After 15 minutes, here it is. Noon is inevitable. Here's what happened 15 minutes later. So many people came at once.
On the eve of the so-called presidential election, the wives and mothers of the mobilized have started publishing suggestions in their Telegram channels on how to achieve change in the Russian Federation. They wrote on how to correctly spoil the ballot paper or for whom it will be better to vote according to the principle of smart voting in order to choose an alternative to the current president with the highest chances of winning. This protest by relatives of the mobilized man was the first such direct and open act since the start of the campaign for their men to return home. Reported by Anastasia Tarnavska, Natalia Husak, Volodymyr Stenhelov, UATV News.